what people often forget is that business and success are two different things. And so successful businesses is one thing, but you allowing yourself and giving yourself the permission to feel successful, that's psychological. And that goes back to some deep conditioning. You know, when you got an A in school, did you celebrate that? Or did you focus on the B that you got? Or did you focus on it was a 97% instead of 100%? We're pretty cruel to ourselves in that manner.
Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Stress Podcast. I am so excited to welcome our next podcast guest to the show, and it is Bunny Young. Hey, Bunny, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. The way of how I like to start my podcast is with 3 really simple questions to get the flow of the conversation going for a little bit. And the 3 questions are, where are you located? What time is it? And what have you been up to today before jumping on the podcast?
So I'm from Southern California, but now I live in a cute town called Bump Ass, Virginia. Did not know that they would name a town that, but they did. So that's where I'm at. And it's 1427. No, it's 1627 here. So 427 for those of you that don't speak military time. And what have I been up to today? I went to the ranch and fed some horses and walked my Great Dane, dropped my kids off at school. And yeah, was on another podcast earlier, but I guarantee it's not going to be as fun as this one.
Nice. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 and 1 on the way.
Oh, congratulations. How old are the kids?
12, 6, and 8 weeks.
Wow, congratulations. That's super exciting. And do you have a specific routine in the morning when you wake up in order to
Yes.
support yourself?
Such a good question because I am like so all about this. So I'm from a military family. And so very early on, my dad kind of communicated the importance of your mornings and making your bed and having a routine and making sure that you got something good to eat. So as soon as I wake up, first and foremost, I think my morning routine starts the night before. I don't sleep with my phone in the bedroom. I lay my clothes out. My girls lay their clothes out on what they're going to have and wear for the next day. And then I like to set the alarm to like a particular song. And so I'm waking up to that song in the morning. And then the first thing that I do is typically a little bit previous to being pregnant. It was red light, journaling, meditation, visualization. And so I tried to address like my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, and my emotional health before I even leave the bedroom. And so I have water there as well for me. And now with the baby, I'm still journaling and I'm still doing a visualization technique. And I love to be able to kind of drop in and do that. And then obviously, water is like a huge thing in my life to just stay hydrated. And then when I leave the bedroom, I crack open the girls' doors so that they know like I'm awake. One wakes up before the other one.
Nice.
Give them some love and then go start their food. And I typically don't touch my phone until like 9:30 or 10 a.m.
Wow, really nice. And is it the same song you play every morning or a different one?
It depends. It depends. It's been Good Morning by Queen Hervey lately. Like that's what it's been. But I went through YouTube Where the Streets Have No Name. Like that was what I wanted to wake up to. It's got a great intro. So it really depends on how I'm feeling the night before.
Nice, amazing. And when did you set up this morning routine? Has that, because you said you come from a military family, is that something that you've always done? How much has that changed over the years? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it started as like something that I had to do, and now I really want to do it. And so I being able to wake up with music was something that was important to me in middle school. I remember I got like a 6 CD changer. It was like a huge deal. And I loved being able to set the alarm and listen to music. And then I think how it's evolved is prioritizing. Once I had kids, the first thing that I do when I woke up was like prioritize them. And so
Mm,
I think re-establishing my own self as the priority in the mornings, first and foremost,
mm,
is how it kind of evolved. I still love coming home to a made bed, and I can't come home to a made bed unless I'm willing to either have somebody make my bed or me make my bed. And I really love this idea of like putting one thing away or like clearing one thing before I leave my room. So whether it's a piece of laundry or whether it's like putting my shoes back in my closet, oftentimes it depends on the girl's schedule, but between my husband being in the military and my girls playing sports, like we could get home at 9 o'clock at night and I'm just exhausted. And so I love being
mhm,
able to walk back into my room after the day of like with clarity and organization. And so it really doesn't take that much to just 10 seconds to clean up.
mhm. I love that. It's a great idea. Clean something up quickly to make yourself feel a little bit better
Yeah.
mentally, right?
Yeah. I've taken it even farther and I'm donating one thing a day.
Oh, wow.
So there's one thing that's leaving our house per day. And then every week I take it to the donation center.
Uh-huh. Wow. And I'm sure with kids that's so easy, right? Because there's so much kind of stuff that just kind of accumulates.
Yeah, I think it's easy for me as well because I've accumulated a lot of pairs of shoes and a lot of outfits that I don't really need. And, different backpacks and bags, stuff that was
Mhm,
given to me from conferences, client gifts that, you get kind of at the end of the year. They're like baskets and spa baskets, and I just don't use them. And so I'd
mhm,
love to be able to kind of you pass that on.
mm. I love that idea. And I'm going in my head through all of the things that I could already let go of.
Yeah,
But you see them and you're kind of annoyed and you think, oh, if that would be gone and I would have more space, yeah, it would make you feel so much better overall.
it was shocking to me. Like I've been doing this probably for 3.5 months now, and I don't miss anything.
Mm,
Like it's shocking to me how much stuff we just accumulate.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been fun. I donated a waffle maker. Like I don't remember the last time I've made waffles, and we always get like the toaster waffles. So why do we own it a waffle maker?
Mm-hmm. And
I think it's
somebody
just
else
fun.
might be so excited to have a waffle maker, right?
It was a really nice waffle maker. We bought it when we got home from Belgium because we were really excited. Like in Belgium, they make the waffles with like a sugar crust. So when they
Mm-hmm.
come off the waffle maker, they've got like this hard sugar crust. And we tried like 3 times to duplicate it. And this is at least 6 years ago and couldn't do it. And so I haven't used a waffle maker in 6 years. So I'll
Yeah.
just have to go back to Belgium to get my crusty sugar coated waffles.
Oh, I know exactly which ones you're talking about. Um, Tell us a little bit more about you, Bunny. What do you do for work and how do you help people?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I own 5 companies. And I say I own, I don't run because on a daily basis, I have built an incredible team that I'm really appreciative for. And so a typical day could look like me coaching or speaking or traveling. I just got back from California with working with a client in Southern California and finishing up a mastermind out there. And I work maybe 6 hours a week and it's probably 4 hours on new projects and 2 hours on existing projects. One of the companies that I own is a tech platform called Coaches HQ. And it's really a take on a coaching directory that's really like a content platform. And the whole premise of it is to connect really amazing coaches with their ideal clients without charging coaches $15,000 a month for marketing. And so we wanted to get the coaches who were good at coaching a chance to work with their clients, not just the coaches who are good at marketing.
Mm,
And we're sinking a lot of time and energy into that right now because there's an exit strategy there and building it. And the team's amazing. And just the growth that it's already had is pretty amazing. So that's typically one of the 4 hours on the new projects. And then we have a DeFi accelerator that we're working on. We've had a DeFi program that optimizes both personal operating system and business operating system for being able to scale without burnout and overwhelm. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're bringing a whole new aspect to it and creating an accelerator within that program. So that's another hour on that. And, other than that, it's just, I have the most incredible clients, and it's taken years to build it to this scale and where I can be really hands off. But like yesterday, my daughter called from school and had a headache, and I was able to go pick her up. So most of the
Mm-hmm.
time of my day is spent with horses, dogs, and my daughters. But I do
Kids.
love traveling and I do love working.
Mm-hmm. And so when you say you also have incredible clients, what do you do with these clients? You coach them?
Yes. So we coach them after or during COVID. We worked a lot with companies on mental health in the workplace
Mm-hmm.
and normalizing, taking care of yourself and taking care of your team members. I personally love coaching entrepreneurs that are at multiple six figures and want to scale beyond that, but don't want to continue to trade time for money. And so I love being able to work with entrepreneurs and family centric entrepreneurs on their limiting beliefs and having the background as a therapist. And I now like what clients affectionately call like business therapy, because I'm working on the psychological habits and the behavioral habits
Mm-hmm.
and turning that into business strategy. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love being able to coach, face to face and be able to optimize clients' businesses. And it's just kind of, at the end of the day, I always feel really fulfilled, but I'm like, what did I actually do today? Because it's all intuition and using my 3 generations of entrepreneurial experience growing up in business to just kind of look at stuff and follow what needs to be fixed. And sometimes it's more on the therapeutic brain and sometimes it's more on the business brain, but somehow, some way it always works out.
Mm. So fascinating. What are the biggest limiting beliefs that people have around building their business to more than just multiple six figures?
So if I want to make more money, I'm going to have to work harder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to trade my time for money.
Mm-hmm.
If like I'm successful, it means that somebody else can't have something. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
charging somebody, it's not right. If there's people in this world that are starving,
Mm-hmm.
I've got to discount myself. There's a lot of imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this is resonating with those in the audience right now in some way, shape, or form.
Totally. Yeah. And the other question that I have, I think it's so interesting for me that you've built multiple really successful businesses, and I've been running my business now for 4.5 years, and I'm starting to get a lot of questions from people now about how did you start your business and what are you doing, right? Like more and more people, the longer you are in the game, I feel like the more people start to be interested in also how you set up your business. And one of the biggest questions that I at the moment ask myself is, how many years does it take to be successful? And I think there's a limiting belief behind that as well, of like, it needs to be 4 years or it needs to be 7 years. Like, what do you like, besides the limiting belief of, thinking I need to work hard for 7 years before I can be successful? Is there a timeline that you've seen where usually the breakthrough happens? I know like, as I say it out loud, I'm already like, there's such a limiting belief behind that, but still curious kind of what you think about that.
I think it's mainly about your relationship with your business. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
any day that you go to bed feeling like you made an impact and you were able to
Mm-hmm.
use your unique skills to make somebody's world better, that's success. So I think first take a pen and paper and really define what success looks like for you. Because I remember working with a client and they were like, having time to be with my family, having more than enough to, support our lifestyle with plenty left over for savings and investing. And they were stressed out about trying to do all this. And when they kind of got clear on it, they already had everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of the time, the life that you have now is a life that you dreamed about 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even a year ago. And so you're moving the needle on yourself for success. You are already successful. You
Mm-hmm.
were successful the moment you decided that you were going to step out of your comfort zone and monetize your purpose and your passion.
Mm-hmm.
So how much time does it take to create a successful company? 6 months. Really depends. If you're doing services, if you're not building a tech product, or you're not, having to get in distributors or get like food approvals or those kinds of things. If you're not delivering a product, 6 months. Because with that success, and it really goes back to how you define success, but when you're delivering a service-based product, you have very little overhead because it's you and you're delivering a solution. And in that first month, the hope would be that you get 2 to 3 clients. And then that second month, let's double it. And then once you have 10 clients, then create a group program so that you're getting paid 6 to 10 times from 1 hour of your time or an hour and a half. And at this point, you're probably already 80% profitable, because what are you really paying for? Like a Zoom subscription, maybe an emailing software, like some kind of CRM. So you're probably 80% profitable. And so from a business standpoint, I would call that a success. Now, when you start layering in your lifestyle desires, and it's like, for me, I hired a team. I hired that, of you having a successful business, right? That's that level. Now, if you want a successful company, if you want to be able to step away, that's a whole different level. And so now you're essentially trading that 80% profitability for hiring a team that may not have a direct ROI. Everybody on your team should have a positive ROI in some way, shape, or form, meaning that if I hire a marketing person that I'm paying $2,000 a month, that marketing should bring in $10,000 a month worth of business. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm being a nerd about the business stuff right now, but I think that I'm so good at the business stuff that what people often forget is that business and success are two different things. And so successful businesses is one thing, but you allowing yourself and giving yourself the permission to feel successful, that's psychological. And that goes back to some deep conditioning. And so, when you got an A in school, did you celebrate that? Or did you focus on the B that you got? Or did you focus on it was a 97% instead of 100%? We're pretty cruel to ourselves in that manner. So 4.5 years in business, I'll just give you a statistic in the aspect that half of businesses fail in their first year, and another half of those fail in the first 3 years. So you're part of 25% of companies that has outlasted that. Mm-hmm. That's pretty incredible.
Thank you. I received that.
Yeah. So I would say you're successful.
Thank you. Yes. And I'm like, yes, there's psychological conditioning for sure going on. And it's so interesting. I love that you were saying, like, when you got a grade A in school, like, did you celebrate that, or did you focus on what you need to do next? Or did you focus on the B that you got, or the next assignment, or whatever it is, right? And I see that a lot in my clients. It goes back to that. It goes back to those years where I feel like, I talk about peak performers. That's kind of the description or the definition I give to the type of people that I work with, the high achievers, the overachievers. And the other day I was interviewed on a podcast, and somebody asked me, or the host asked me, what is a peak performer? And I said, a peak performer goes back to the years in high school where you learned that ambition and that skill of keep on grinding and being more ambitious and wanting more challenges, and not being happy with the good, right? And that is obviously exciting, but it can also be so destructive, right? And that's what you are obviously seeing, focusing on business clients and on focusing on burnout and those kind of things as well. How can you break that?
See, my definition of peak performance is a little bit different, having relationships with Olympians, because I know how hard that they train. However, they enjoy their life. And so I think my definition of a peak performer is an individual who is able to celebrate where they're at and is comfortable wanting more, like is comfortable with desiring more. But I think if you're always just moving the carrot and you're never satiated with where you're at, then how could that be peak? Because you're not happy. So you're never actually at your peak. Whereas I think that the individuals that I work with, that they're able to celebrate the level that they're at and they want more, they're peaking at every single level that they're at. instead of constantly saying like, oh, I achieved this, but it wasn't enough. I achieved this, so it wasn't enough. So then they're never actually able to say, I'm at my peak.
Mhm.
Um, and I was laughing about this because I was coaching my daughter's softball team last night, and I threw a ball across like from behind third base to first base, which is very far, especially when you're not 15 anymore. And I played at University of Arizona and had the opportunity to go to school with and associate with the United States Olympic softball coach. And I had an opportunity to train with them as well. And so, like, I'm a pretty good softball player, at least I was at one point in time. So when I threw this ball and then I got in the car and my shoulder is killing me, I'm like, dang, like I've really lost some years. However, that's not how I'm looking at success or failure and whether or not I can throw the softball. I still threw the softball. I still made the throw. It was just the pain afterwards. But I'm not
Mhm.
on that field to win the game anymore. I'm on that field for my daughter.
Mhm.
And that's winning and that's success. And so I'm at a peak right now that I never have felt this fulfilled before, because I'm taking everything that I previously thought was so important to me and I'm passing it on to the next generation. And it doesn't matter if she plays for an Olympic coach, it doesn't matter if she goes on to the Olympics, because she's able to get some life lessons in this moment. So I think if I was so focused on just getting better at every single aspect of, excuse me, like every single aspect of just playing softball, or so focused on that end result and moving the needle, I would have missed the smile on her face, as I went to go catch a ball and fell on my butt. Like, no, I'm not at the top of my game in softball, but I'm at the top of the game right now in being a mom and being a human and in my life.
Mhm.
And how do you break that pattern is you start to celebrate the little things, like just the tiny little things. Even if you have an absolute awful day today, can you celebrate the fact that you got up? Can you celebrate the fact that you have a roof over your head? It doesn't matter how small you start, you're training your brain to start to celebrate the wins. And when you start to celebrate the wins, your muscles can relax and your nervous system can go back into optimum firing. But if you're always dealing with the feelings of not enough, you're actually never in optimal functioning. You're always in like a stress response
Always like, yeah.
in your physical and your emotional and your mental, even in your spiritual. And it's kind of like if you held your hand out in front of you and you made a fist, it's like, this is the life of never enough. This is the life of like, I always want more. I'm not enough. Next, 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 right? Got to do. And now if you relax your hand and you hold your hand out in front of you with like a flat palm, like this is peak performance. It's being able to hold this abundance in your hand with the least amount of exertion, not letting it be hard. Like going, if you are operating in your flow and you're operating in your purpose, like this is the abundance that's waiting for you. And yeah, it's absolutely okay to celebrate what's currently in your hand and desire more. And that's a lesson that I had to learn over and over again,
Mhm.
because I thought it was either or. It was either, if I'm happy with what I have currently, it means I'm never going to get any better. Or if I want something else in my life, it means that I'm discounting what I currently have. And it's definitely, this is why I named my podcast Yes and, is because it's yes, being happy with everything that you have and desiring more. That's okay.
Mhm. Mhm. Ah, you speak from my heart. I love it. This is such a, I love the analogy of the fist and the open hand. So you are saying, so I want to clarify one thing, because you're saying you're working with business clients that you kind of do business therapy with, and they do come with limiting beliefs. And at the same time, you teach them obviously how to bridge the gap between already celebrating what they have and teaching them that they already have what they actually want. And
Yeah.
then creating more from that space, correct?
Yes. So it's you're 100% right. It's more about creating more of what they want in their life. However, if they don't know what they want, like that's the problem. And so I'll give you a perfect example. If you came to me and you said, I want to make $10 million. And I was like, okay, why do you want to make $10 million? You're like, I don't know. It's just, I want to make $10 million because, I think it would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, what are you currently doing with your money? You're like, well, I'm paying my bills and I'm living my lifestyle, but I want to make $10 million. And it's like, if you don't have the clarity on what you would do with the $10 million, on what your life would look like with the $10 million, if you're just throwing that out there because you think it's a cool number to achieve, you'll never be happy with the number. You're just going to move it to 100 million. And I don't want to say it's a waste of time for me to help you to get to 10 million, but you're not going to like it. Like, you're not going to love the life that you have at 10 million because you're not connected to it deeply. It's just money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we can parlay that into value, if we can parlay that into, you have a dream of a house that you want on the cliffs of, Montecito that costs $8 million, and you want to be able to travel privately with your family so that you can go to these really cool destinations. And we're able to land it where it's like, yeah, so what you're currently charging your clients is $100 an hour. So here's X amount of clients and X amount of hours that you would have to trade for your 10 million. And then you can start to see, oh, but if you build a course and you're charging $1,000 a month for a person to go through this course and growing your audience and reaching this impact, you can see how your life starts to fill in the dream versus the number dictating success or failure. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel free. I want to be able to walk from my house down to the beach with my family. I want to be able to travel luxuriously. And that's where the psychology comes into it. And so when I'm working with a client who I had a client who's a multi-billionaire, and he wanted to have more sales with this product. He created this product. He wanted to have more sales. In truth, he created the product because his son was graduating college and he wanted to do a project with his son.
Mm-hmm.
And when we stopped making it about the product being successful, the product became more successful because he was able to collaborate with his son and he was able to enjoy the process. And he didn't care if he was going to sink $250 million or $250,000 into this product because he was enjoying the ride. And for him, it was never about the money. That was just what he thought it was about. It's always deeper. Money is, we made money up. Like, we literally print it and it's zeros and ones for the most part. And so when you tell me that you want to make more money, 100% of the time, it's always about something else. Like, you want more freedom, you want safety. And so how can I focus on, instead of waiting until you have the $10 million for you to feel safe, how can we make safety today?
Mm-hmm.
How can we create more freedom today? And that's what I'm really good at, is being able to grow your company in a way that works for you rather than you having to work for your company in order for it to grow.
Mm-hmm. And what are the fears and blocks that because I feel like, okay, there, I'm going through my head about, like, a lot about my own business and obviously the people that I work with or that I chat with about these things. And let's say they know what they want, they know why they want it, they know how they want their life to look like. And still there are these fears and blocks that come up to think, you talk about the imposter syndrome, deeply resonates from myself and also obviously with people that I work with. And then, the fear of, am I good enough for this? Do I deserve this? How do you work, as maybe even from a therapeutic perspective, because I know that that's your background, how do you work through those beliefs?
Yeah. So if you're open, we can just work with that, what did you say? Like, of not being enough?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when that comes up for you, is that new or is that familiar?
Familiar.
Okay. And when is and we're going to go through this accelerated, so hold on, audience, but where's the first time that you can really remember the sensation of feeling like I'm not enough?
I would say the transition from elementary school to high school was the first time I got C's and D's, because I realized I had to rehearse more and revise more of the work or of the content that I learned in order to be successful again. And so I think there was this pattern of comparing myself to my sister that didn't have to do that. And she just continued to have A grades in high school. And for me, it required more work. It required that additional time and energy. And so I think I have a deep-seated belief that is, I need to work hard in order to be successful.
Okay.
And when I don't do that, I am, yeah. And that's maybe a little bit of a different thing as I'm talking about it out loud, but
No, it's great.
yeah.
So
Okay.
that's perfect. So if you go back to that scene as an adult right now, as your loving resource self, can you see that younger version of you that's transitioning from elementary school to high school?
Yes.
And if I pressed mute on this story about what C's and D's meant in relationship to success, and you're looking at her, is she successful? Without the story about the grades, without the story about the sister, is this little girl successful?
Well, I guess she's alive and she has a family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
And
success.
and then tuning into her, if she doesn't buy into the stories about what C's and D's, and she has no concept that she should, and I'm holding up air quotes, but should be like her sister. If she doesn't have any of the awareness of that story, does she feel successful?
No, because I think she laid that a lot on herself a lot of the times. It's not really about the comparison or what the parents expected of her. It's more of what she expected of herself
And
already that early on.
what did she expect?
Good question. I think to have A's, to prove to herself that she can, and to get the recognition and love from her family that she thought she would get because of the good grades.
Okay. So you can see how what she really wants is the recognition and love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so if you were able to, right now, in this moment, give her recognition and love in this memory, that pattern, believe it or not, would heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because and you know this, where does recognition and love come from before we can source it externally?
From ourselves. It's innate, right? You already have it.
Yes.
And it comes from yourself by giving yourself self-love.
Yes. And so if we went even deeper into this, you can see how what was probably modeled younger was a lack of self-recognition and a lack of self-love, and having to externalize that and having to be successful in a job or with money or with external recognition. And then there's that constant chase for that external recognition. And when we can settle all of that down and see, I am worthy of love and recognition because I am, not because of grades. I mean, look around you right now. Like, did that C and D stop you from all of the incredible things in your life?
No.
No. And so when you have that now, like, we know that recognition and love is what we're going to build the foundation of the next steps of your life and your company from.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do it from those roots and that seed, the fruits of what's growing are ultimately abundant. And this is something I was talking about because with my mentor, because my mentor is like, so many people are focused on the fruits, but they don't look at the roots of where they're growing. And just right then, I mean, we spent a couple of minutes and went back to see how you desire to grow your company that's in alignment with love and recognition. And as long as it's external, it'll never actually fill that internally. Once we can do it internally, then it just makes all of the external that much better. Absolutely that much better. And so that's how I work with individuals. I don't typically, like, it's not a cookie cutter strategy, but it's being able to go back and see, like, what do you really want? Because you're telling me it's a successful company. But when we get down to it, we just found out it's love and recognition. Because we could build a really successful company on paper, but would you be able to metabolize the love and recognition, or would you just need more?
Mhm. It
Thank you
always
for being
comes back
willing
to
to go
that.
through that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking me. This is so fascinating. I've had just recently another podcast guest that took me through a coaching live in the podcast interview. And I love that because I think, first of all, it shows really powerfully what we do as coaches when we are talking with clients. And I think sometimes it portrays it so much better than if we just talk about the theory, right? Because I feel like we're just kind of on the surface and we don't get to that next deeper level. And I think when people then listen to that next deeper level, they really actually understand what it means. And it's, I'm smiling because I'm like, doesn't it always come back to love and recognition? Because I have so many clients that's what they need. They just need to
Yeah.
love and recognize themselves instead of trying to get that from the external world. And because they're trying to get that from the external world through promotions and positive recognition and through salary increases and things like that, they always are on the hunt, but they're never really feeling deeply satisfied within.
Love, recognition, safety, security. These are kind of what I call the core wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fascinating about the human mind is that we develop most of our developmental and psychological programming before the age of 7,
Mm-hmm.
which is just fascinating. Which
Mm-hmm.
also means, like, as much as a therapist, I was like, oh, I don't want to do more inner child work. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's an opportunity to go back. And it's so cool how when, if we took that even deeper and we integrated this older self with the younger self, like, you would see the domino effect of how that changes and shifts the perspective of almost every single memory that has to do with love and recognition from that day to now. And I know that because of how clear you had that memory of that transition.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that imprinted, there's a movie in the States called oh man, what is it called? Inside Out. And like,
Mm-hmm.
the human brain has, in this little girl, she has these core memories. And when the core memories start to change to blue, they start to become sad memories, even if they were happy memories, right? Because now
Mm-hmm.
she's missing what was in that happy memory. And so this is exactly what we're doing with inner child work, is we're recalibrating those core memories. Instead of a lack of love and recognition, now it's a domino effect of being able to go back and give yourself that love and recognition and all of those core memories.
Mm-hmm. So here's the next layer. So I'm like, okay, I do understand that I need to give myself more love and recognition and just celebrate what I already have versus always striving for more. And then in my head, it goes, yes, but I could still do this better and I could still do that better. And I still haven't really figured this part out. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You get to celebrate the love and recognition right now. And from that place, you'll have an infinite amount of more energy. So, like the 3 things that you said, when you look at it from a love and recognition perspective, what would you love to do next out of those 3 things?
Mm, I'm not sure I follow you.
So you
From
said
three
there's like,
things.
I could do this
Oh,
better. I still need to
mm-hmm,
get this
mm-hmm,
done. Like,
mm-hmm.
prioritize it in your head. Because
Okay.
I'll explain what's happening.
Mm-hmm,
So what's happening is you're calibrating to a new level. And so
mm-hmm,
once you're accepting and filling in that love and recognition, and
mm-hmm,
your hand is starting to soften and your palm is starting to open, your brain kicks up and is like, yes, but, and it's trying to tighten that fist back up because
mm-hmm,
that's what it's used to. That's its set point.
mm-hmm,
And so now that you're increasing your set point and your vibration, like, your ego and your nervous system is naturally going to be like, oh no, wait, that's unfamiliar, not uncomfortable, but unfamiliar. So that's where the thoughts come from. And
mm-hmm,
so what I do is I still, like, hold that in love and recognition. I'm like, yeah, I have so many possibilities. I have so
mm-hmm,
much opportunity. What would I love to do next? I agree with you. I do desire to do more. And what would I love to do next? And so if what's going on in your head is, yes, I love myself and I recognize myself, and I could record 3 more podcast episodes, and I could set aside an entire day to record all that video content, and I still need to master, using Chat GPT. I look at that and I'm like, okay, what would I love to do? It's like, well, if I spent some time with Chat GPT, I could probably script all the content, and that would make it so much easier and I'd have so much more time for the podcast episodes. And so you're coming at it from a different way. It's
Mm,
not about what you're doing, it's how you're doing it.
mm,
It's like if you and I went on a date because it's calendared and that's what we had to do versus if you wanted to go on a date with me. You know, like you remember in a relationship when you're first starting out and like you get those flutter bees in your tummy where you're like, I can't wait to go, you know, see this person or text this person versus like if you've been in a relationship for a period of time and you're like, oh, I guess we should go on a date. Oh, my text messages now are about, you know, the grocery list. Like it's the perspective that you're taking with it. And so how can you go back to being in love with your life
mhm,
and in love with your goals instead of looking at it as a constant obligation? So I'm fully giving you permission to want more and go about it from the energy of what would you love to do next? What would give you more of the sensation that you had with the love and recognition?
mm. Love
I
that.
hope that lands.
That lens. Yeah. And yet it's so difficult.
Only because the story in your head, because of what we're
Hmm.
used to,
Hmm.
right? Like we hosted a retreat in Hawaii in December and there was no air conditioning. This is a really good analogy. There was no
Hmm.
air conditioning in the house. And so I had clients flying in from Virginia, from Texas, from Colorado, from California. All of these places were very much used to air conditioning. But on the island, very few people have air conditioning. I mean, it's 80 degrees out. So, like, why you just open the window? Why would you need air conditioning? And so, you've got these people who are accustomed to air conditioning that are very uncomfortable. And you've got these people who are accustomed to not using air conditioning that are perfectly fine.
Hmm.
And so, I could tell you that going to the island and not having air conditioning was difficult. But is that true? Or is that just because it's what I was used to?
Hmm. Yeah, I would be totally
Other
fine without air conditioning.
Yes. And so that's why, like, sitting in air conditioning, is that difficult or is that just a new set point?
Hmm.
So without that story that it's difficult, just like we got rid of the story of C's and D's mean something, like without the story of it's difficult, because it's difficult is just an argument for your current life versus a life that you want. It's just trying to keep you small.
Hmm.
Like, you know, I had somebody tell me, well, making $1 million is hard. No, it's not. It's really not. But the thought process that you have or the belief system that you have behind making $1 million, whether it's a judgment you're going to get from your family, whether it's how many hours you're going to have to work, whether it's how hard you're going to have to work to find clients, that's what you're making the story about. The actual act of making $1 million is not difficult.
Hmm.
Neither is, you know, not buying into the story of love and recognition is difficult to hold on to 100% of the time. It's just a new environment.
Hmm.
And so unfamiliar is not necessarily hard.
Hmm.
It's new,
Yeah.
but if you and I went to Antarctica, like that would be new.
Hmm.
And you see how both of our brains immediately want to go, well, that would be difficult too.
Like, oh, hmm.
We don't know that. We're buying into a story of what life in Antarctica might look like
Hmm.
and might feel like. And
Hmm.
it doesn't serve us to get tight and stressed and worry about what that's going to be like,
Hmm.
you
And
know?
so, what are the practices to keep me in that new space and not run away back to the old familiar that I'm used to and that makes my brain feel safe?
Yeah, I think the visual cue of holding your hand relaxed in front of you,
Hmm. Hmm.
because you can even see how that relaxes your shoulders and relaxes your arms.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I asked myself the question, is this serving me?
Hmm.
And I remember sitting in the Edinburgh airport in Scotland, and my I had 4 flights, 4 airlines cancel on us because I have a very large service dog. And they said the plane was too small. They said that it was just like over and over again. So it's like 7 in the morning. I've been there since 3 and I was almost in tears. And then I thought about it and I was like, look, is worrying helping me right now? Like in reality, is this serving me? I don't think I'm going to cry my way across the channel between Ireland and Scotland. And so I'm like, okay, so like, what are my options and what am I choosing? My option is to sit here in the airport and just complain and feel sorry for myself. My option is to go see if I can get a private jet and see if one of my clients has access to a private jet that they can get me across the channel. I can rent a car and take a ferry across the channel. Like, I can swim across the channel with my dog. I don't know. Like, there, but you start to see like the abundance of options. And
Mhm.
then you're like, okay, now what am I choosing? Like,
Mhm.
obviously, out of all of that, sitting in the airport, staring at a wall, crying, not going to be the option that I choose. Right.
Mhm.
And so I think when we get tunnel vision like that, it helps to really slow down and ask yourself, like, those questions. Is it serving me? What are my options? What am I choosing? And then I also think to use your community. And so this is where I'm a huge fan of community. This is why we built DEFY the way that we did with such a engaged community, is because to be able to go to you and say, okay, Julia, like, I'm stuck in Edinburgh. Like, I'm stuck in Scotland. And have you be able to be flat, like, reflect back to me, well, you got to Scotland from the United States. So you can just follow your trail back to where you were and get back to the United States if you want, even if you never get to Ireland.
Mhm.
Like, you're reflecting the truth back to me. I really needed somebody at that time. It would have been beneficial for somebody at 7 o'clock in the morning to be like, Bunny, you are not going to get stuck in Scotland for the rest of your life. That's not going to happen. And even if it does, Scotland's not that bad. Like, but in my head, in my worrying head, I thought I was going to be stranded in Scotland with my dog for the rest of my life. Like, that's where my head went.
Mhm.
And so that's a step that you can take. Those are 3 steps that you can take. One is the visual cue and breathing, right? That's the somatic physical part of it. Take a breath as well. The other one is the mental, so the logical questioning, right? And then the emotional, sharing it with somebody else, sharing your burden with somebody else, and they can reflect it back to you. Don't share it with somebody who's like, yeah, that sucks. Like, that doesn't help. But share it with somebody who's willing to hold for your highest and best.
Mhm. Love that. This was so powerful today, Bunny. Thank you so much for the time and for the coaching and for the insights that I'm sure don't just help me, but many other listeners that have been listening today. I totally agree. This was probably the way better podcast interview that you gave. I think so, at least. And I might be biased. How can people best connect with you if they're curious to work with you?
Yeah, I put a ton of resources up on bunnyyoung.com. So it's BUNNYYOUNG.com. And then if you want to connect with me on Instagram, it's at @thebunnyyoung. So that's THEBUNNYYOUNG.com, or just just the Bunny Young. There's no .com on Instagram. And I'm sure that will all be in the show notes.
That will be in the show notes as well. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your beautiful energy and light. If you have been listening to this podcast today and you feel like you absolutely need to share this podcast episode with someone that could really benefit from the information today, please make sure to do so. Share it with somebody, care about that person, and help them get out of their head and really more into feeling what's right for them. Thank you so much again, Bunny, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day.